The History of Human Marriage by Edward Westermarck. Edward Westermarck's The History of Human Marriage explores the fascinating journey of marriage as it evolved throughout human history. Westermarck, an anthropologist and philosopher, dug deep into human cultures and societies, both ancient and modern, to piece together how marriage as a social institution came into being and how it transformed over time. His work aimed to understand why marriage was created in the first place and what purposes it served for individuals and societies. Westermarck begins by examining the early reasons for marriage, showing that it is not just about love or companionship but is strongly tied to survival, societal stability, and the basic organization of family life. He believed that marriage emerged as a response to human needs and biological instincts. In early human societies, people needed a stable and predictable way to reproduce and raise children. Marriage provided that structure. By pairing up, men and women could better protect their children and improve their chances of survival in a world that was often harsh and challenging. One of the key points Westermarck makes is that marriage was historically closely linked to reproduction and family bonds. This did not mean that love or attraction was absent, but rather that these bonds were often secondary to the practical considerations of life. He argues that the social and cultural reasons behind marriage grew as societies became more complex. In small, tribal communities, marriage often had a simple, practical function. But as societies grew, marriage began to include other meanings, responsibilities, and expectations. Over time, marriage became not only a way to protect and raise children but also a tool for social organization. In many societies, marriage was used to create alliances between families or clans, thereby establishing stronger social and economic ties. Westermarck also explains that the forms of marriage varied significantly across different cultures and societies. Some cultures practiced monogamy, where one man marries one woman, while others accepted polygamy, where a person could have multiple spouses. Polygamy, for example, was more common in societies where wealth and resources were concentrated in the hands of a few individuals. Having multiple spouses was often seen as a symbol of status and wealth, while in societies that valued equality and community, monogamy was more common. Interestingly, Westermarck points out that some societies even had forms of polyandry, where one woman would have multiple husbands, although this was much rarer. He suggested that the environment and economic needs of a society often determined which form of marriage was preferred. In places where resources were scarce, a polyandrous marriage might allow several men to share responsibility for one household, which could make survival easier in challenging environments. A major theme in Westermarck's analysis is the role of biology and instincts in shaping human marriage. He believed that humans, like other animals, had instincts that led them to form pairs. For example, he suggested that humans have a natural feeling of affection and attraction to members of the opposite sex, which encourages them to form lasting bonds. However, he also believed that humans have instincts that create a desire for stable family structures to raise children. This instinct, combined with social pressures and practical needs, helped shape the structure of marriage across cultures. One of Westermarck's most influential ideas is known as the Westermarck effect, which refers to the idea that people who grow up together in close family-like conditions, such as siblings, are less likely to develop romantic or sexual attraction for each other. He argued that this instinct helped prevent incest in families and maintained healthier family dynamics. This insight was particularly groundbreaking, as it suggested that social customs around marriage and relationships were partly rooted in biological instincts, not just cultural rules. Westermarck also explored how marriage laws and customs evolved over time. He noted that in many societies, marriage was not a private matter but something that involved the entire community. In ancient societies, marriage often required formal ceremonies and rituals, which were important for gaining the approval of the community and making the union legitimate. This public recognition of marriage was essential for establishing legal rights and responsibilities between partners, and for ensuring that children born into the marriage would have the support and protection of the family and the community. In many societies, Westermarck observed, marriage was tied to religious or spiritual beliefs. In ancient times, people believed that the gods or spirits had a role in blessing marriages, ensuring fertility, and protecting families. Religious ceremonies were often seen as necessary to make a marriage legitimate in the eyes of the gods. Over time, however, as societies became more secular, marriage became more of a civil institution rather than a strictly religious one. Another significant observation Westermarck made was about the roles of men and women within marriage, which have changed over time. In many early societies, men were expected to be providers, hunters, or warriors, while women were often seen as caretakers of the home and children. These roles were deeply ingrained in many societies and often justified by practical needs and survival requirements. However, Westermarck also recognized that these roles were not fixed and could change based on the needs of society. As societies progressed, the rigid expectations around gender roles in marriage began to soften, allowing for more flexibility and equality between men and women. Westermarck was aware that his work could not capture all aspects of marriage in every culture, and he acknowledged that his theories were generalizations based on available evidence. He encouraged future scholars to build on his work by studying marriage in other societies and historical contexts. His book, therefore, remains open-ended, inviting readers and scholars to explore further and deepen their understanding of marriage as a social institution. In sum, Edward Westermarck's The History of Human Marriage shows that marriage is a complex, evolving institution shaped by a mixture of biological instincts, cultural norms, social structures, and economic needs. It is not merely a personal or romantic union but a reflection of how societies have organized themselves to survive and prosper. Marriage, according to Westermarck, is one of the foundational elements of human society, adapting to the changing needs and values of each era. His work reminds us that the way we view and practice marriage today is just one stage in a long process of evolution that has taken place over thousands of years. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more insightful discussions on fascinating topics like this. Thank you for watching.